Welcome everyone to today's Sloan Fellows MBA admissions process and application tips webinar. My name is Maddie Clark and I'm one of the associate directors within the Office of Admissions at the Sloan School of Management. Before we do dive into the content of today's presentation, I want to kind of set the foundation of who we are as a school within MIT. And so here at the Sloan School of Management, our mission is really to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world and to generate ideas that advance management practice. And this is certainly seen throughout all of the activities that we engage in as a school and institution, but particularly the first part of our mission you can see within our portfolio of programs. We're really looking to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world through our program offerings. And so we have a variety of programs here at the Sloan School of Management. We have some early career programs for folks who have just a couple of years of experience at the maximum. We have a couple iterations of MBA offerings, and then we also have one part-time offering within the Sloan School of Management, which is our executive MBA. But the program that we're all here to talk about today is our Sloan Fellows MBA, which is a 12-month degree where students earn either an MBA or an MS in Management or an MS in Management of Technology. Folks who join the program have at least 10 years of experience, but on average are entering our program with 15 years of experience. So we'll talk a little bit about the application process for the Sloan Fellows program today. Before we do so, I want to give you a quick glimpse of who is in the class. This is our current class profile for the folks who started this past June. We had 103 students start the program. 37% of our students identify as women. 77% of the class is international, coming from 42 different countries. And 13% of our students from the US are underrepresented students of color. As you'll see here, students are coming from all different industries, with our top 3 industries that students came to us from this past year, from financial services, technology, government, education, and nonprofit. But there's certainly variety in where folks are coming to us from and also where they go after graduation. And one thing that I just want to quickly highlight is that 47% of our current class has a previous advanced degree as well. So now that you've heard a little bit about who's in our class, I want to talk about who is an ideal candidate to join the Sloan Fellows program. Like I had mentioned before, we're really looking for 10 years of post-bachelor full-time work experience. That experience, we're really looking for folks who have both leadership and general management experience. So thinking about folks who are leading teams, leading organizations, leading teams cross-functionally, that can really help folks be successful in the program and contribute to the classroom setting. As I mentioned before, we have 42 countries represented in our current class, and so we're definitely looking for folks who are committed to global perspective. You'll be hearing those perspectives from your classmates as you sit in your courses with Sloan Fellows students, but other students across the Sloan community. But also within the curriculum, there's definitely a focus on the global perspective and how you can improve the world as a global leader. We're really looking for folks who push boundaries and challenge the status quo. Again, if you think back to our mission, I'm really looking for folks who create kind of innovative solutions to improve the world. And so definitely looking for that in candidates for our Sloan Fellows program. The program does have some rigorous quantitative aspects to it, and so we're looking for folks who have comfort with quantitative coursework that they've previously taken or other certificates. We are looking for candidates who are able to communicate effectively and articulate their thoughts to help them be better classmates, but also better leaders in the world after they graduate. And we're also looking for folks who are committed to learning and self-improvement. This program really allows folks to take a step back from their careers. They're not working for the year and they're really immersed in this program. And so we really want folks who are curious about learning and want to be here to kind of work on their self-improvement and their own development in the 12 months of the program. So the ways that we kind of identify some of these aspects that we're looking for in an ideal candidate are through our different application components. We require a cover letter, resume, a video statement that's an introductory video statement. We've introduced a second video question that's randomly generated open-ended. We require 1 letter of recommendation from a professional source. We require 2 additional references. one organizational chart, your transcripts from any institutions that you've previously taken coursework, 2 professional short answer questions. Test scores are optional, but we accept both iterations of the GMAT, both the Focus and 10th edition, GRE and executive assessment scores, and then 1 final short answer question on your personal background. You all are here today and hopefully are applying for our round 1 deadline that's approaching on October 1st. But we encourage you to apply only when you feel you are your application is at its best. And so if you're not able to apply by round 1, we do have a second deadline that will be on January 27th in 2025. And one thing to note, if you are invited to interview, we do require 2 additional short answer questions before your scheduled interview. So that is to come later in the application process. This is a quick glimpse of how our round 1 timeline will go. Like I mentioned before, our deadline is October 1st, so in a few short weeks. Immediately following our application deadline, we will begin reviewing applications, and we'll do that for a couple weeks and release interview invites by October 22nd, with interviews starting on October 23rd and running through the early December. And then we will release all final decisions for round 1 on December 13th. In our evaluation process, like I mentioned before, we start reviewing the day after the deadline. So on October 2nd, every single application that's submitted will be reviewed by our professionally trained admissions committee. When we're looking at applications, we're really looking for demonstrated success and leadership skills. So as you're thinking about crafting your application and what materials you're providing to us, really thinking about how you might highlight some of these questions. How well do you work in a team? How do you solve problems? How do you communicate and adapt to change? Those are really helpful for us to see, to really see those leadership skills. Again, thinking back to the ideal candidate profile that I showed earlier, we're really looking for those leadership skills and general management experience. And so being able to showcase that throughout your application materials is really important. So now we're going to dive into all of the application components and provide some tips as you complete each of the requirements. The first one is the cover letter, and this is where you submit a cover letter seeking a place in the MIT Sloan Fellows MBA program. It is 300 words or less, and we're really looking for you to use examples within this cover letter. And so a couple tips as you're completing the cover letter. This is really your place to sell yourself. You're doing that on all your application materials, but certainly using the cover letter to do so. This is also the place to talk a bit about why MIT Sloan and why the Sloan Fellows MBA degree in particular. We really want to see recent professional and personal examples that demonstrate why you are a good match to join the program. So really utilizing the 300 words or less to showcase this. And one tip for everyone, don't focus on your future goals here. There is a specific place within the Sloan Fellows application for that. And so here we really want to see those recent examples that you're able to demonstrate why you're a good fit for the program. And later you'll detail what you want to do after the program and why the program aligns with your future goals. The next component of the application is the resume. This is, we have a few formatting requirements for this. So that's the first tip. Just make sure you follow these formatting requirements. We're asking for 2 pages or less, Times New Roman font, size 10, in either a Word or PDF format. And like all resumes, we're asking that you structure it in reverse chronological order. And so as you're thinking about your resume and kind of detailing different pieces about your professional and personal experiences, make sure that it is easy to read and easy to follow, and that you're following those formatting requirements. We really want to see not just we don't necessarily want to see your responsibilities. We want to see more of the quantifiable accomplishments. And so highlighting those in the different areas that you're providing your professional experiences, really what was the impact of your work? Again, thinking back to we're looking for leadership skills. How can you kind of showcase those in the quantifiable accomplishments that you're listing within your resume? A couple notes for each of the sections that you'll likely include in your resume. Within the education section, you're welcome to include any relevant awards, scholarships, or professional societies that you've been involved in. With your work experience, please make sure you're including the basics of the company name, your title, and dates of the employment. And again, it's really important to kind of provide bullets that showcase your skill set. So results-oriented bullets are really helpful for us to see the impact of your work and how you might be able to contribute to the classroom based off of your past successes. The next component of the application is the video statement, and this is the introductory video statement where you introduce yourself to your future classmates, with the caveat being that your future classmates won't ever see this video. It is just for us on the admissions committee, but this is a place that you can really let your personality shine through. We encourage you to be conversational and be yourself. We're really excited to watch these videos and get to know you more outside of what's already on paper within your application. So a few tips as you are thinking about what to say in your video statement or how to kind of record it. Keep it simple and use your best judgment. We do want to see and hear you. So if you are thinking more creatively about where you might be taking the video, please make sure that we are able to see and hear you clearly. Be aware of your surroundings in that as well, and really show us your personality. Through your other application materials, we're seeing kind of your demonstrated success and leadership skills. This is a place, if you want to, you can show kind of more personal aspects about you, showcase your personality and how it might contribute to the Sloan community. We have a second video question that we introduced this year. So for anyone that previously applied to our Sloan Fellows program, this is a new requirement that wasn't on previous applications. And this is a 60-second randomly generated open-ended prompt that you're responding to. And so a couple tips as you're completing this video question. First thing to note is that if you recently opened an application, this does not automatically appear on the application. You have to complete about 80% of your application requirements in order for this to appear on your left-hand side of your tabs, and it will show up under video question 1, which is the introductory video statement that you'll provide. And so once it does appear, you don't have to record it immediately, but you are welcome to kind of go into the space and see how it is formatted, where your question will show up. You're able to test your mic and your video. You'll see where your recording sign is, how much time you have left. And so really take the time to feel comfortable with the software that's within our application for this before you start this video question. You do have to click a button saying that you are ready to begin recording to start the video question. So it won't just begin without you knowing. When you are ready to begin recording your video question 2, you'll have 10 seconds to prepare to the prompt and 60 seconds to record your answer. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions, and there's no advanced preparation that's required. This is really used to see how you think on your feet and communicate authentically. And again, this is about your past experiences, and so there are no right or wrong answers as you're completing video question 2. The next component of our application is the recommendation letter, and we do require just one recommendation letter. So we are not looking for any more than one recommendation letter in your application. And this should be from a professional contact, ideally a manager or supervisor, someone that can really speak to the impact of your work and provide additional kind of results-oriented details and examples in their letter that they're providing. We encourage you to ask your recommender early so that they have time to really develop a well thought out letter for you. And we ask that you do not write this letter for them. They should be writing it from their perspective on how they would answer these specific questions about you. There's no word count on the recommendation letter, and your recommender will upload their letter directly to your application once you put in their recommendation, your recommender's contact information. And so when you're thinking about who to ask to be your recommender, really think about who can answer these questions in detail about you. We're looking for how you stand out from others in a similar capacity. We're looking for examples of your impact on a person, group, or organization. Examples of how you interact with others. If there's anything else that they want to share with us, recommenders are welcome to. And then the last piece, we're looking for a piece of constructive feedback that they've given you and looking for details on that on the circumstances of that and your response to it. And so really think critically about who can speak to these best and highlight, again, the impact of your work, those leadership skills and your previous successes so that we can see those throughout all of your application materials. The next component are additional references that you'll provide. And these are similar to who you might ask to be a recommender. A couple things to note about this. When you go into the application, you'll just list their contact information, and these references may or may not be contacted. If we are contacting them, we'll figure out a time that works for both parties to have this conversation. But the conversation will be similar questions to what we might ask a recommender. And so just thinking, you'll only have one letter of recommendation, but if you had others in mind for a letter of recommendation, you might list them as one of your references. The next component is the organizational chart. In this, you have up to 2 pages to kind of visually represent your role in the relationships that you have. And so when you're thinking back to what we're looking for in an ideal candidate, we are looking for leadership experience and general management experience. And so this could be a really good way to provide a visual representation specifically of that general management experience. Who's reporting to you, who you're reporting to, really showcasing who you might be influencing for decisions, who you might be delegating tasks to or developing that are reporting to you. And so really showcasing all of those relationships is really helpful for us to see as we're reviewing your application. So a couple tips as you're completing this organizational chart, we really want to see your role within the greater organization. So again, who do you work with? How broadly are you interacting with other groups? So if you have any dotted lines to folks, including those within your organizational chart is helpful for us to see. Thinking back to the cover letter, we ask for you to be clear in what you're providing to us, and same with your resume. And yes, the same in your organizational chart. Make it easy to read, easy to find where you are on this organizational chart. So highlight yourself. Sometimes for folks who have stayed in their organization for many years, they might be able to showcase their previous roles within their organizational chart. That's helpful for us to see kind of career growth if it appears within your organizational chart, but it's not required by any means. Thinking back to the last 2 requirements that we talked about, the recommendation letter and additional references, sometimes those folks will also show up on the organizational chart. So highlighting those for us to easily find is helpful as well. So again, this is very much a visual representation of those relationships that you have and provides additional information as we're reading through things like your resume and seeing the different results-oriented bullets that you're providing, how they connect to these relationships that you're showcasing within your organizational chart. And the last tip, just make sure that your chart matches the resume and the employment section that you complete in your application. Your organizational chart needs to be from your current organization. So just keeping that in mind as you complete your application. The next component of our application are test scores, and these are completely optional, but we do often get a lot of questions about test scores, so I want to talk just briefly about them. If you have a valid test score or an expired test score, you're more than welcome to provide them. It just provides an additional data point for us as an admissions committee to review when we're looking, again, for demonstrated success and leadership skills. This can certainly showcase academic aptitude if you're able to provide a competitive test score for us. If you are providing a test score, you can provide a GMAT score, either the Focus Edition, which is the current iteration of the GMAT exam, or the 10th edition. You're welcome to provide either of those. We also accept GRE scores and executive assessment scores. And you're welcome if you have, say, a GMAT score and an EA score, you're welcome to provide both of those to us. You can upload as many scores as you would like. And we do accept in-person or remote versions of any of the exams. And again, valid or expired test scores are fine for the Sloan Fellows MBA application. The next component is related to test scores when we're thinking about academic aptitude. And this is our academic record section and our relevant coursework section within our application. So we're looking for transcripts from all of the institutions that you've previously attended or are currently attending, even if you've only taken a course or two there. Please provide all transcripts. And then there's also a section within our relevant coursework section where you're able to upload any additional materials for non-degree coursework or professional certificates. So there's space for both of those pieces of information, and we welcome you to provide as much as you have. The things we're looking for when we're reviewing your transcripts and non-degree coursework is, again, academic aptitude. We want that demonstrated success in the classroom so that we know you'll be successful in our program. Thinking back to the ideal candidate again, we're looking for quant comfort, and so definitely looking for that through the transcripts and relevant coursework section. I do want to also note that we do not have any prerequisites, and so as you're filling out the relevant coursework, it's just for us to see where your foundations lie within those topics, but they are not requirements to be admitted to the program. So you'll complete that relevant coursework section, and many of those courses are quantitative courses that we're looking at. When we're looking at these, we really want to see kind of a sense of intellectual curiosity. So how have you continued to learn and develop? Even if you've graduated a decade ago, what have you kind of engaged with since then to showcase your intellectual curiosity? If you've taken additional courses, trainings, certifications, providing those is helpful for us to see. And this just helps, these materials help us understand your mastery of any subject area. Again, thinking about your demonstrated success and leadership skills, seeing if you're able to master a subject that you previously chose to study is helpful for us in our evaluation process. The next component of the application are professional questions. And so these are 2 short answer questions. The responses are limited to 200 words or less. And thinking back to when I was talking about the cover letter and not listing your future goals in your cover letter, that's because you'll list your future goals in one of the professional questions. So the first question is to share your immediate and long-term professional objectives and how the Sloan Fellow MBA program will help you achieve those. So this is the perfect space for you to put your future goals in. The second question, I keep mentioning general management experience throughout many of the application materials, but that's certainly something that we're looking for in candidates. And so general managers are often responsible for strategy, budget, and or work output from individuals and teams for at least one function of an organization. And they have the ability to see big picture across functions. General managers are part of short-term and long-term strategy discussions and work cross-functionally to achieve a goal or specific strategy. And so this is the space that you'll detail the general management experience that you have. Again, tying back to the visual representation that you'll provide through your organizational chart and other areas that your general management experience might show up. This is a place specifically to kind of further highlight where your general management experience lies. And then the last component that we're going to talk about today is the short answer question. Thinking back for anyone who previously applied to the Sloan Fellows program, this was not a requirement in previous years, so it is a new requirement. And it is a short answer question, 250 words or less. And you'll talk a little bit about how the world you come from has shaped who you are today. And so this is really a place for us to learn more about who you are and an opportunity to expand on your personal background and, again, how that has shaped you into who you are today. It is limited to just words, so please don't include any links or videos. So 250 words or less for the short answer question. So as you're thinking about crafting your whole application, a couple kind of tips for all of the materials. We're really looking for folks to provide application materials and information that complements each other. So as you're thinking about what information and what details you're sharing in, for instance, your cover letter, how can you further showcase your skill set outside of what's already demonstrated in your cover letter through your other application materials is really important. We want all of the materials to be complementary to one another rather than repetitive. So making sure you're really taking the time to think about where you're showcasing your different skills and how you can use the different application materials to complement one another. We're really looking for reasons to admit you. So as you, again, think about these different components, think about what data you're providing us so that we can admit you. We want to be advocates for you, and we are looking for reasons to admit you. And so as you craft your application, really think about what details you're providing, the impact of your work that you're showcasing, your professional and personal skill set that you're showcasing. All of those materials are really important as we kind of gather different data points on you to ensure that you'll be successful not only in the classroom, but also at working within our community and enhancing the community aspect of Sloan. Our biggest tip is also to apply early. With that being said, if your application is not ready to go by round one, definitely wait until round two. And like I mentioned before, we begin reviewing applications the day after the deadline. And so if you aren't applying for round one, there's no need to apply on, say, October 2nd for round two. We won't start reviewing applications for round two until the day after the round two deadline in January. So just apply when you feel that your application best represents your skill set, but also apply as early as that application is ready to go. Make sure you're following the directions. You might have noticed that a lot of our materials were requesting specific word counts or lengths of videos, and that's very intentional. We want you to be succinct in the information you're telling us and the story that you're kind of showcasing. And so make sure you follow those directions. If we're asking for 60 seconds in a video, provide 60 seconds of your video. If we're asking for 200 words in your professional question, keep it to 200 words or less as required. And just be yourself. We want to know who you are as a whole person. Again, looking for demonstrated success both academically and professionally from the past, but also your leadership skills and general management experience. And so showcase those skills, showcase that data, but also be yourself and use things like the introductory video statement to show a little bit more of your personality outside of what we might already see through your application materials. And try to have as much fun with the application process as possible. So that's kind of it for the tips that we have. I know we've had a lot of questions throughout today's session, so I am going to invite my colleague Sam to come off mute and ask some of the additional questions that we've seen in the Q&A feature.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for submitting your questions throughout the presentation. Some of them, like Maddie said, we've reserved to answer live because we think they'll be helpful for everyone to hear. So let's just get into it. The first question that we have is there a possibility for someone with a US STEM degree to request a GRE GMAT waiver?
Yeah, that's a great question. Since test scores for this admission cycle are completely optional, there is no waiver process for the Sloan Fellows program. It's up to you whether you would like to provide a test score or not, and there's no negative inference if you don't provide a test score. You'll just simply click continue through that test score section and provide your application without a test score if you do not want to provide one.
Perfect. Do I need to be in a leadership or management role when applying for an MBA or SFMBA?
Yeah. So our Sloan Fellows program is really looking for mid-career professionals who have that leadership experience and general management experience. It's the program and the structure of the curriculum is really geared to folks who have been leading teams and organizations. Specifically, if you're leading teams, thinking about the strategy that you might be involved in and cross-functionality across teams. And so we are really looking for those experiences. Students need them to be successful in the classroom and to be able to contribute in the space of the Sloan Fellows program. And so if you don't yet have those experiences and say you might be on the cusp, maybe you're at 10 years of experience, but you have fewer direct reports and you're not necessarily involved in big picture strategy and things like that, you might want to consider our 2-year MBA degree. That does not require general management experience. And so really thinking about what the experiences are that you've had. If you have that leadership experience and general management experience, Sloan Fellows is a great opportunity. But if you don't, there are other degree offerings within our portfolio that might be better suited to you.
Awesome. Can you share some tips for SFMBA re-applicants?
Yeah. That is one thing we didn't cover too much of, but when anyone goes into our application and is a reapplicant, there are specific questions for you as a reapplicant. And so there is, I believe it's 200 words or less, where you'll highlight or provide a summary of what has changed since the last time you applied. And so this is a good place to start as you're thinking about your application materials, really providing those high-level details about what has changed since the last time you applied and providing them in that specific space. As you're thinking about all of your other application materials, you should also consider that question. We do not want to see the same application that you previously submitted. We want to see new information and new data points. What have you done since the last time you applied? Where are those achievements, results-oriented bullets within your resume of things that have happened since your last application? We have your last application, and so it's to your benefit to provide as much new information as you can through the application requirements, so that we can see how things have kind of evolved and changed since your last application. And we'll look at those two in conjunction as we review you for the Sloan Fellows program.
Great. And for qualifiable accomplishments, are we more focused on leadership skills, like growth within your team or, management experience, or are we looking for more like corporate performance accomplishments, like the effectiveness of your work and the results of what you've done, growth of the customer base, kind of things like that?
Yeah, I would say we want to see both types of quantifiable accomplishments within your resume and throughout the application. Thinking back to kind of my overall tip for all application materials, we really want everything to be complementary to one another. And so making sure that if you're providing more detail about one specific accomplishment in one section, if you're able to showcase a different accomplishment or piece of impact of your work through other applications materials, it's really helpful for us to see. We want to see as much as you're able to share within our application materials. And so providing all of those quantifiable accomplishments and impacts is really helpful for us.
Great. And then there's also a question about someone who has two jobs right now. One takes up a lot more time than the other, but the other is one that they're hoping to pivot to. What should the organizational chart cover in that situation? There's
Yeah.
two jobs.
Yeah. So your organizational chart, if you do have two jobs, the one that takes up the most time that you list as your primary under the employment section of the application, again, thinking about how you're showcasing your work experience in the employment section, resume, and organizational chart should all match for your primary work currently. And so showcasing that where you're spending the most time, and we'll see the other work experiences that you have going on concurrently through your resume and employment section as well.
Great. Another organizational chart question. If someone's held different roles and functions within the same organization, should they include that in their organizational chart, or should they just stick to what they're currently doing?
Yeah. If you are able to demonstrate kind of your career growth through your organizational chart, that's helpful. It's just another kind of visual representation of that. And so finding a way to kind of detail if this was a position you previously had that now reports to you, showcasing that. So certainly we encourage you, if your previous roles fall within your organizational chart, it's helpful to highlight that for us as well.
Great. All right. And now for consulting people, how should they tackle the organizational chart?
Yeah. So we understand folks that come from consulting backgrounds, even folks from military backgrounds, they might approach the organizational chart slightly differently than most folks. And so for consulting, thinking about your most recent project or engagement and highlighting that organizational chart is helpful for us. And again, if you pull results-oriented bullets from this project or engagement, it can showcase that visual representation of those relationships. And so it's your most recent, if you've had multiple recent projects and engagements, I would pick one of the larger ones, but it's a recent project or engagement and showcasing that organizational chart. And oftentimes you'll showcase kind of dotted lines to your clients as well. And for folks that aren't able to provide specific details on names or different confidential pieces, please provide as much information as you're able to within the organizational chart. And we have an FAQ section on our website to kind of detail how exactly to approach that if you're coming from a consulting or military background and aren't able to provide some information.
Great. Okay. For the general management essay, should you be describing what your management style is, or do you need to give examples of demonstrating your general management skills?
Yeah, we're looking for kind of your general management skills and experiences. So not necessarily providing how you manage people, but talking about what those experiences are, and kind of the responsibilities within those experiences. This is a short answer, so there is not a ton of real estate to provide every single detail of your general management experience. And so really making sure that you're succinct in the information you're providing and really getting to what those experiences are that have focused on your general management and leadership skills.
Great. And then can you share some general tips on tackling video question 2?
Yeah. I think as you're going into this video question, I know we've received a lot of questions about it, and just because you only have one shot at recording it, so it does seem stressful for some folks to complete it. But I think the mindset you can go in when you're recording this is how you might be answering an interview question or having a conversation with someone. So the questions aren't trick questions. They're not meant to have a right or wrong answer. There are no right or wrong answers. It's really just seeing how you think on your feet and how you would have a conversation. We will want to ensure that folks who are joining our community are able to contribute effectively and communicate effectively. And so this kind of showcases some of those skills and how you might interact in the classroom. Some of the questions that you might get asked, again, they are randomly generated, but this is just an example of a couple. You might be asked, what's your proudest accomplishment? So that's something you should be able to answer. Again, you have 10 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to record. And so if you were just having a conversation with someone, how you would respond to that question. There are some questions like, tell me about a time that you failed and how you bounced back, things like that. And so it's not meant to trip you up. It's really like to see how you think on your feet and how you would have a conversation. And so really utilize the software and make sure you feel comfortable, test out your microphone, test out your video, make sure you know where the question's going to appear on the screen, where it shows that it's recording, all of the different pieces before you click that you're ready. So there shouldn't be any reason that you feel unprepared for it going into it, because you'll be able to see all of the different pieces of the video question 2 before you say that you're ready to begin recording. And just try to have fun with it, and just approach it kind of like a conversation or how you might approach an interview question.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about some ways that the Sloan Fellows program supports students with healthcare backgrounds?
Yeah. Specifically within the program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a few different ways for folks who have healthcare backgrounds or are looking to get into the healthcare space within the program that's an opportunity. And so the way the Sloan Fellows program is structured, students start in June and their whole summer term is spent with other Sloan Fellows students. You're all in a cohort taking core classes and really setting those foundations, creating learning groups and things like that. And so there's not a lot of formal curriculum specialization in that first semester. Once you get into the fall and spring semesters, that's when you have a mix of core classes and elective courses. And so this is where you can start if you're really interested in healthcare. There are a lot of healthcare electives that you can take through Sloan, but you can also take cross-registered courses outside of Sloan in the broader MIT community or even at Harvard. And so you can kind of develop your curriculum to match what you need in terms of your healthcare needs. There is a healthcare certificate, and so that requires at least half of your elective credits to be focused on healthcare, and it has a few specific requirements. You have a couple required healthcare elective courses, and then you choose from a list of approved electives. And so this is another way that you can kind of specialize the degree specifically to healthcare. That is true also for our other 6 certificates. So if anyone's interested in business analytics, finance, sustainability, product management, enterprise management, or entrepreneurship and innovation, those certificates work the same, and Sloan Fellows are able to pursue one of those certificates in their time of the degree. Outside of that, kind of more informally, there are a lot of opportunities through clubs and organizations. Again, thinking about healthcare, opportunities through the Health Systems Initiative as well, which is the healthcare certificate is taught and administered in conjunction with the Health Systems Initiative. And so there are a lot of opportunities if you want to kind of have a more specialized degree in healthcare. There are ways to do that and a lot of resources as you think about that. There's also the Healthcare Action Learning Lab, which goes along with the healthcare certificate. And so plenty of opportunities if you're either in healthcare and looking to stay in healthcare, or in another industry and looking to get into healthcare. There are plenty of ways to kind of make that a focus of the Sloan Fellows degree. And I would say no two Sloan Fellows get the same MBA degree because there is so much opportunity for customization of the degree and really catering the electives to what you need personally.
Awesome. And then there's also another question about individuals who have worked for the same company, but their company has different locations in different countries. So if you've kind of bounced around, will you list this all under the same employment in the employment section, or would you separate it to say into like 3 separate locations if you worked in 3 separate cities across the globe?
Yeah. Within the employment section, when you're filling out each of the employment section entries, you will put the location. And so if you have more than 3 entries, if your whole career has been at the same company, just in different locations, I would list them separately as employment entries. If you have worked at other companies as well, I would list them all in the same employment section so that you can list your other companies. But you'll also showcase the locations through your resume. And so we'll have that information hopefully in both spots, but if not in both spots, then at least in the resume at the different locations.
Awesome. Okay. And then here's another one about someone who might be just missing, the 10-year full-time experience mark, but they can supplement it with time that they've spent freelancing. How do we view that?
Yeah. So we're really looking for 10 years of experience, and that would be 10 years of full-time post-bachelor's degree experience up until the start of the program. So say you're at 9 years right now, or a little over 9 years, and would be at 10 years by June of 2025, then that meets the 10-year minimum. There are always we'll review every application and see what those experiences are. And so sometimes there are on a case-by-case basis if they're right on the cusp of 10 years, but we really are looking for that 10 years of experience in addition to general management experience, because that's what makes students successful in this program. And that's who this program is really geared towards. And so it's not just the years of experience that we're looking for, but also the general management experience. So making sure that you have both of those. And if you don't have, especially the general management experience, but also not the 10 years, maybe considering our 2-year MBA degree as a better option.
Great. And then can you provide some more details on what we're expecting to see from the first video question? Where they should record, how deep they should go into their personal life, kind of just a little bit more into that.
Yeah. So you as an applicant have kind of total creative freedom to provide whatever information you want in the introductory video. The prompt is to introduce yourself to your future classmates. So I think thinking about how you might do that, what information you would share with them. There is no right or wrong way to take the video statement. And so you are welcome to provide only professional details. You're welcome to provide only personal details. It's really up to you to decide what information you want to share and how you want to showcase your personality. I will say the most memorable videos that we've seen are the more creative ones. So a couple examples that I can think of. We had someone who was an avid hiker and they hiked a mountain and recorded their video at the top of a mountain. Someone that is really into cooking and showcased some foods that they were cooking from their home country. Those are some of the more creative ones where people are showing kind of more personal aspects than professional. You're welcome to do a mix. You can kind of take it however you want and showcase whatever you would like. But I think really let who you are as a person shine through and your personality shine through and have fun with that video. And so total creative freedom that you have with that one to provide just an introduction of who you are and what you might bring to the Sloan community.
Great. And then we also have a question about management experience again.
Mhm.
If would we consider management experience if it's through individual contributions? So, for example, if someone as an individual contributor was helping manage a program outside of their full-time experience or full-time employment, how would we view that?
Yeah. When we're looking at general management experience, we're really looking for folks who are leading others that have direct reports or dotted lines to people that they're delegating tasks to, helping develop them as professionals, but also people who are at a position where they're influencing decisions that are being made for teams or organizations, that they're leading kind of big picture strategy. They might be overseeing budgets or cross-functional teams. And so we're really looking for like all of those experiences within general management. We want to see that you have kind of what that sphere of influence is that you have. And so we are not necessarily looking for individual contributors for the Sloan Fellows degree. To be successful in the classroom, you have to have these general management experiences. And so really thinking about where that sphere of influence is, who you're delegating to, who you're influencing, who you're collaborating with. We want to see all those relationships, and those relationships need to be there. So if you are an individual contributor who doesn't have all of those aspects of general management, then the Sloan Fellows degree might not be the right degree for you.
Great. And then can you also just talk a little bit more about the CDO and support for employment after graduation?
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about it during the program too, but the CDO is our career development office, and they're very involved with the Sloan Fellows curriculum from the start of it. Even prior to getting to campus, our students work on a 360 leadership assessment survey, and then work through that to see where their leadership skills are and where areas for improvement. And they work directly with executive coaches as well as they think about kind of further developing their leadership skills in their time. And that's through the career development office as well. The career development office also has specific Sloan Fellows advisors to really think about career trajectory. Oftentimes, Sloan Fellow students might be looking to pivot industries, functional area, or geographic location. And so there are a lot of resources as you're thinking about which one of those categories you might fall into, how to kind of navigate that career trajectory and career development and exploration. And so there are a lot of workshops put on through the CDO during students' time. So they begin thinking about where they want to be after graduation from the start of the program and working towards that. And then there are also within the CDO alumni experts across 17 industries right now. And there are multiple experts per industry that can provide guidance. So that's a really valuable resource for folks who are looking to pivot industries. And then after graduation, students have access to the CDO, but also the alumni network is a really valuable resource as students think about their career trajectories. And there are over 31,000 MIT Sloan alums worldwide. And so a lot of kind of human capital to tap into and utilize as you think about your career going forward.
Great. Let's see. We also have some questions on if you're able to apply to the SFMBA and the regular MBA at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, you can submit an application to both. Um, I think also attending events for both programs to see if you're able to kind of figure out which one might be a better fit for you, having conversations with us, but you are more than welcome to apply to both our Sloan Fellows MBA and our 2-year MBA in the same admission cycle.
Great. And can you also talk a little bit about family supports for Sloan Fellows?
Yeah. Um, a lot of our students come to the Sloan Fellows programs with their significant others, which at Sloan we call SOs or families. And so there's a lot of support built intentionally into the program for that. Thinking about this past weekend, they did a welcome back to campus for the fall, and it was a day that families were invited to. So they had a lunch that was put on by the Sloan Fellows program office, and then they had the opportunity to go to the Museum of Science with their families. And so that's just one example of how families and SOs are really thought of through the co-curricular offerings for our Sloan Fellows students. There are certainly opportunities that are just for students as well, or just for students and their SOs. There was a welcome back at a bar in downtown Boston, which required all attendees to be over 21. So that was just open to SOs and students. But there are a lot of opportunities for family engagement through the Sloan Fellows program. Many students do come with families and SOs, and even outside of the Sloan Fellows program, at Sloan, there's an SO club. So SOs are able to join that and get involved with other SOs that are beyond the Sloan Fellows program as well.
Great. And then we have a few questions about people who are entrepreneurs or are pivoting into entrepreneurship and what resources are available at Sloan for them.
Yeah. I would say a lot of folks who join the Sloan Fellows degree have some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor either immediately after graduation or a little further down the line. And so there are a lot of resources within the Sloan Fellows program specifically for that, but then also the broader MIT community. And so thinking back to the 7 certificates that I mentioned, one of those is Entrepreneurship and Innovation, which is administered in conjunction with the Martin Trust Center, which is MIT's Center for Entrepreneurship. And so that is a really valuable resource for folks who are looking to get into entrepreneurship. Getting involved with the entrepreneurship ecosystem from the start is really helpful. They put on different accelerator and incubator programs. Once a semester, they do a pitch night where you can go and pitch yourself to maybe find another, your future co-founder, or just hear ideas of others. They do events like the MIT 100K, which was recently, this past year was won by one of our MBA students. And to gain funding for their entrepreneurial endeavors. And so there are a lot of opportunities as you kind of think about how you're developing your ideas and getting it from ideation into a reality. And so really engaging in the Martin Trust Center is, I would say, the #1 resource for folks who are interested in entrepreneurship. There are also clubs and organizations within the Sloan community to get involved there, and then the broader MIT community. So a wealth of resources for folks who are interested in entrepreneurship, and even opportunities to formally kind of signify to future co-founders that you're dedicated to that area through the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Certificate.
Great. And then what kind of general guidance would you give to applicants who are involved in family business?
Yeah. So within the application materials, in the employment section, you will signify that it's a family business in employment. As you're completing an application, we are not looking for like letters of recommendation from family members, and that's true for any of our applicants. And so thinking about who you're asking to be a recommender should really be a professional contact, a supervisor or manager. And if you're not able to provide one of those, that is not a family member, thinking about clients that might be able to speak to your the impact of your work. And so there are places to provide those details of family business, but please make sure that you're providing a letter of recommendation that is not from a family member.
Great. And then, can you share some insight about what it's like for people pivoting, more specifically, people pivoting from maybe a more traditional background to something like entrepreneurship that's a little less clean cut?
Yeah. I think depending on like where someone's pivoting to, if it is entrepreneurship, utilizing the E&I certificate is really helpful. Engaging with the Martin Trust Center is helpful. If you are looking to pivot, I think knowing that before you start the program, so you can very intentionally seek out those opportunities to help with that pivot. If you had a specific industry that you're looking to start an endeavor in, maybe connecting with the industry, the alumni experts from that industry to kind of get their guidance on it. There are a lot of opportunities for networking through the Martin Trust Center. So thinking about how you're engaging with those folks. But there are plenty of opportunities, and a lot of folks in the Sloan Fellows degree are pivoting in some way. And so it's kind of thought of throughout the curriculum and what's being administered to students, but also the opportunities outside the classroom, and just making sure that you're thinking very intentionally about what you're engaging with to ensure that you can be successful in that pivot.
Great. And I think this is probably a good final question to leave with because it has a little bit more to do with actually submitting your application.
Yeah.
But if your application is mostly ready, but you might be a little bit concerned about um, not having as many advanced coursework like calculus on your academic record, should you wait and try and take those classes on your own, or should you go ahead and submit your application in round one?
Yeah. I do want to reiterate that those classes, the coursework that we ask you to detail in the relevant coursework section is not a requirement by any means. And so folks are admitted to the program even if they don't have any of that. And so just thinking about that aspect, but also thinking back to the ideal candidate profile that I shared at the beginning of today's session, we are looking for people who have quant comfort. And so if you don't think that it's showcased through the coursework that you've taken, thinking about the other application materials that you are providing, and if you feel that that is sufficient to showcase your skill set with quantitative aspects and topics. And so it really is up to you to kind of figure out if you feel that all of your application materials best showcase your skill set and ability to be successful in the program, or if you would feel more comfortable waiting and providing an additional piece of data through like a certificate or an online course or something like that. So it's up to you to kind of figure out if you feel that your application showcases those skills. But again, it is not a requirement to have any of the relevant coursework topics completed prior to the program.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks, Sam, for asking some of the questions, and thank you everyone for attending today's session. We really appreciate the time you took out of your day to join us. We look forward to hopefully seeing all of your applications